According to medical experts, symptoms of hearing loss include a sense of fullness in the ears, speech that sounds muffled, and a ringing in the ears, also known as tinnitus. Exposure to the sound of a single shot from a .22 rifle without protection is all it takes to cause permanent hearing damage. And even if you don't notice any symptoms today, the effects of noise-induced hearing loss are cumulative, so every gunshot that reaches your ears is slowly eroding your ability to hear little by little. Fortunately, effective hearing protection is inexpensive and widely available. Even the little cheap foam earplugs you can get for under $1 offer a noise reduction rating, or NRR, of up to 32 decibels when they are worn properly. Of course, if your hearing protection is so effective that you can't hear what's going on around you, that's an even bigger safety concern. A guy on the firing line who can't hear instructions or range commands is a danger to himself and everyone around him. And that's where electronic hearing protection has a huge advantage. Electronic earmuffs like these have little microphones on the outside that transmit to speakers on the inside that allow the user to hear normal sounds, but then the signal is cut off when it detects sounds that would be dangerously loud. Today I am continuing a little mini-series about the range gear that I use and recommend. For several years, the hearing protection I used was a set of these Howard Light Impact Sport electronic earmuffs. These are really popular because they're inexpensive, but they work pretty well most of the time. I like to keep a couple of extra pairs around to use as loaners, so I've actually owned 5 pairs total. The electronics quit working on 2 of these after a couple of years of regular use, so they're not the most durable units on the market, but I still think they are a really good value for the price, especially if you're only going to use them occasionally. A while back, I thought about upgrading to something a little better, but as I researched it, I really wasn't that impressed with the noise reduction rating of most of the higher end earmuffs. And then around that same time, right out of the blue, I was contacted by someone from the company Etymotic asking if I wanted to try out a pair of their electronic earplugs. I agreed to take a look at them, and now, a year and a half later, that's what I'm using pretty much every time I go to the range. These are the Etymotic GSP-15 Gunsport Pro earplugs. The MSRP is $299, which is in the same price range as most of the nicer earmuffs I had been looking at. Earplugs have a lot of advantages over earmuffs when you're shooting. First, they are much more comfortable in the summer heat. Earmuffs and 90% humidity in August make a really gross combination. Earplugs also don't get in the way as much with shooting glasses or when you're shooting long guns. Depending on the gun, even the low profile earmuffs like the Impact Sport can prevent you from getting a good cheek weld on the stock. And that's not an issue you have to worry about at all with earplugs. In the time I've been using the Gunsport Pro earplugs, they have been exposed to sweat and rain. They've been left in the car all day in the summer, and I'm not advising you to abuse them like that, but for what it's worth, I haven't had any problems with the electronics, and the only maintenance I've ever done is to change out the batteries. So the durability seems to be really good. The noise reduction rating on the Gunsport Pro earplugs is 25. Of course, that's dependent on how well the earplugs fit in your ears. They come with 6 different types of ear tips, but for shooting, the manual recommends using one of the 2 pairs of foam ear tips. I had pretty good results using the larger foam tips, but just like any foam earplugs, they're a real pain to take in and out of your ears, especially if you want to get a good seal. But other than that, I was really happy with the earplugs. The sound quality is really good. I can stick them in my pocket when I'm not using them, and I really didn't want to go back to using ear muffs again. But then I also wasn't completely satisfied with the foam ear tips. So I asked the people at Etymotic if there was a way to get custom molded ear tips for the Gunsport Pros. They said they could do it, but it might be a little expensive and maybe a little involved. I decided to do it anyway, so they referred me to a local audiologist who created an impression of my ear. Those impressions were sent to another company, Sensophonics, who made the actual ear tips. The audiologist got them back, and then I had to go make an appointment and make sure they fit properly. And then I got the bill, which ended up being a little over $300. That was for the custom ear tips and for the audiologist to make the impressions, and I also got a hearing exam out of it. And here are the earplugs with the custom molded ear tips. As you might imagine, they fit my ears perfectly. It took a little while to get used to them, but now they are very comfortable to wear for long periods of time. I don't know what the exact noise reduction rating is, but they seem to block out quite a bit more noise than the foam ear tips I was using, and they're much easier to get in and out of my ears. So the Gunsport Pros with the custom ear tips, It's definitely not a cheap option, but in a lot of ways, this is like the holy grail of hearing protection. Comfortable, low profile electronic ear plugs with good noise reduction and good sound quality. Now, aside from the cost, I don't think these are going to be an ideal solution for everyone. They work really well for me because 90% of the shooting I do is outside with handguns. Centerfire rifles are louder and indoor shooting ranges are much louder. Even though these provide a good amount of protection, I don't think it's always enough. In louder shooting environments, you really should double up on hearing protection anyway and wear earmuffs and earplugs. Fortunately, the Gunsport Pros are small enough that most earmuffs should fit over top of them. So I don't know if these are good for your situation, but overall I've been really happy with the Etymotic earplugs. I think they make life a little easier at the range, but you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars to protect your hearing. There are plenty of affordable options out there, so there is no excuse for not wearing ear protection every time you go shooting, because once your hearing starts to go, you can't ever get it back.